Hey, what's up guys? Just doing a video, I guess kind of an update on the EdgePro Apex sharpening system. People see the older videos and they see me doing videos on this and they want to know more about it. Is it really worth 200 bucks? I mean, I don't even know how the prices have changed since I've gotten this. I've had it for a couple years now. It's one of the best sharpening systems I've ever had, in that it's pretty much, it's idiot proof. You can't screw up. You know, it's set on a guide system. You don't have to really know anything about sharpening. I mean, you look at the instructions, you do what it says, and you're done. And it works great. It really works great. But what I'm going to show you is a start to finish. And this is kind of like, I guess you can call the cheating way of using it. Because sometimes, like, I don't have time to sit down and use a system exactly how it's supposed to be used to a T. Because it is kind of involved, you know, it's a lot to set up and you know, prepare, and then of course you want to take your time sharpening. Being real with you, I don't always sit down and do all that. So I'm going to show you from start to finish how I use it sometimes just to get a really nice edge on something. I'm not looking for perfection, but I am looking for a nice edge. Today I'm going to be putting an edge, or better edge I should say, on this case copper lock. Alright, very cool knife. Yes, it's pink. How observant of you. But it has a factory edge. It cuts stuff. It's not the best. It's just kind of so-so. And I want to get this thing screaming sharp. And I know the system will do it. And I'm actually going to put a polished edge on this. So just, it's kind of a quick and dirty. And this is just how I do it. So kind of an update, a real, here's how this works. Now, I'm not doing this exactly how it's supposed to be used. And you'll see that. I have videos on exactly how it should be used, but it is a process, and it's, you know, a lot of stuff to clean up and all that crap. I just got about maybe 15 minutes before I have to go do something, and I figured I'd put an edge on this knife. So here we go. All right. So what I'm going to need, I'm not going to use the water bottle because I'm not going to use water on my stones today. I am going to use this little mini strop. Use that to clean up my edge. Let's see, I'm not even going to use the marker to mark my blade like you should. I might use this. No, I'm not going to use this. This is a, you know, butterfly style sharpening stone. I know you can't flip it like a butterfly knife. That'd be pretty cool though. I'm sure everyone would want one. I think it's a DMT. Yes. Let's see. All right. I'm going to need this, obviously, and I'm going to need this. Now let's see, what stone do I have on here? Oh, I have nothing on there. That's the blank slate for the polishing tapes. I am going to need that, but I have there's a sharp edge on this already, so I don't need to go through all the different stones. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab. I'm just going to grab the medium stone, I think. Oh, it's another blank one. I didn't realize I have two. You know what? Maybe I can go fine. I'm pondering now. No, I'll go medium. Alright, I'm going to do medium stone, and then from medium, I'm just going to go right to the polishing tapes and just bang it out. Alright, let's roll this back up, put this back in here. I will need some polishing tapes. I'm not going to do the higher grit. I'll use, let's see, the yellow's 3000 and the pink's 1000. I'm just going to go 1000. So, I'll grab just one of them. I'm trying to conserve these two. I did have to replace these. And they're not super expensive, but they're expensive enough where you just don't want to waste them, you know? Alright. So that's pretty much it. Put this stuff aside. Alright. Ceramic rod I'm going to leave out just to take the burr off in case I get one. Okay. So, quick and dirty here. Usually use some water for the suction cups, keep everything sturdy. Not going to bother. This is a quick and dirty. But I'm telling you, it's going to work. I've done it many times before. Even like adjusting here, it's kind of, I mean, if you use the system how it's supposed to be used, there's no thinking involved at all. If you're doing what I'm doing right now and kind of doing a rush sharpening job, you do have to just be aware of certain things so you keep your angles, you know, straight. But anyway, pop that in there. Okay. Put our medium stone on. I have to say, this thing really is so worth it. I can't tell you how many times I've used this and just been like, thank God I have something like this. It's best used for two things. Regular sharpening is not something I do that often anymore because I strop my knives. And I preach this all the time, and I'm going to remind you again, if you're really into knives, you should learn how to strop, because maintaining your sharp edge is so much easier than having to create one all the time. I promise you. But because I do the stropping, I don't have to sharpen that often. When I do have to sharpen, it's usually either from a really, really rough edge, like someone gives me their knife and then it's total crap and I have to start from scratch, where I use the coarse stone. I don't have it out, but I use coarse stone a lot. In fact, I have to plane it again because it keeps, you know, dipping down in the middle where I'm taking off the stone. But either I'm going from like nothing to a decent edge, or I'm taking an already sharp knife and polishing it up so it's ridiculously sharp. So it's usually one of those two things. It's never like just regular maintenance because I strop my knives. All right, so the suction thing is not gonna work because I'm not using water right now. I'm not even using water on my stones, and the stone is dirty, but it's gonna get the job done just fine. And you will see. All right, so I have my already sharp case here. All right, another thing is, you know, you're supposed to switch out the tape all the time so you don't, the little grit on the metal dust doesn't scratch up your knife. This is a knife that's gonna be used. It's not, doesn't have to be perfect. I will adjust this a little bit so that my edge is just hanging over the edge, so my guide is proper. Okay, so again, this is totally not what you're supposed to do, but this is how it works for me. And I'm being honest, this is quite often what I end up doing. Make sure these legs are straight. All right, just because it's convenient. All right. And as far as my angle on here, I'm eyeballing it. That's pretty much it. All right, so here we go. The back of my thing is rocking up and down, not a problem. Just trying to hold everything steady. I'm going light. The biggest trick with doing a rough, dirty job like this, how you're not supposed to, is going really light. If you put too much pressure on it and your angles are off, you're gonna totally screw up your knife. But just go nice and light. Keep everything steady. Now that I've created an edge angle on one side, I want to be consistent with that on the other side. So I am not going to touch that now. All right. Alright, so what I'm doing is creating a new edge angle. Alright, and in doing so, I'm going to keep this angle when I polish, as opposed to trying to guess as to what the angle was originally, you know, from factory. Just creating my own. Alright. A lot of this is just feel, honestly. Okay, so we have a semi-sharp knife. Let's see. Just feeling for some burrs. All right, so with my stone here, just doing a quick pass on both sides. And no, not a safe way to do this, but trust me, I'm not going to cut myself because I don't want to cut myself. Why? It hurts. I do this all the time. It's not right. I'm being honest with you guys. This is just what I do. Alright, so now I have a sharper edge, believe it or not, than the factory edge, even with this medium stone here. So now that I have something to work with, I'm going to go right to polishing. Skipping the fine stone, I'm skipping a step here. All that means is that I'm polishing more. Obviously doing it the right way, you want to progressively go through the different grits. But I'm just speeding up the process here, so instead of this being a half-an-hour chore, it's 10-minute chore. Alright. So here's our polishing tape. Basically it's a really fine grit sticker, and we're putting that on our stone. Tricky part with these is just keeping it straight, and you don't want any air bubbles. You get an air bubble in here, as soon as you pass your knife across it, you have a problem, because it wants to grab it and then rip it. Alright, so straight enough, just make sure it's really flat. And again, using water on your polishing tape will make it more effective faster. But in this case, it's just not necessary for my intended purposes. Okay, tighten that down, straighten up my stone a little bit. There we go. Quick and dirty. Alright, so let's see here. Alright, now this obviously is very important to keep a straight angle here, because if I start tilting my knife back and forth as I'm doing this, it's just going to grab the inside of that sticker and just peel it off, and it's going to be a waste. Alright, so I want to try to keep this steady. Let's work the whole edge. Now when I do this, I'm going to try to stay on one spot on this tape, because when I flip it over, I want a fresh spot. I don't want to keep working on that same spot that's now covered with metal dust. So I'm trying to conserve some of that tape so it's not dirty, so the other side gets a nice fresh polish. Now when you do rush things like this, there's a tendency to rip the tape, because not everything is being done properly. But again, this is, I would say 9 out of 10 times, this is how I use the system. I grab it quick, I get the job done, and I move on. Now if I keep screwing something up, then I will go through the motions of actually doing it properly, like it should be done. And again, you would need less passes and less time on this if you were using the water on here, but it is what it is. Okay, so already you can see just a mirror. It's a mirror finish already on the blade, but you have that sparkling mirror edge. That is darn sharp right now, but the other side needs some work. Okay, here's the difference. Look at this side, just the very edge. There it is, reflecting off the light, as opposed to that. You can see it glistening. Glistening, I tell you. It's coming real close. Now because of the high polish on the flat of the blade, you will get scratches just because I'm using dirty tape. Not a huge deal. This knife is going to be used. Like you see that one kind of scuff coming down here. No big deal. In fact, if I wanted to, I can get some flits and polish that out. But anyway, let's do the other side. I hate doing this side because I'm righty and I want to use my right hand for this just because it feels better. Anyway. Again, I'm using this portion of the tape, okay, see how the dirt, the grit is mostly on the other side. And of course, to finish everything up, I'll use the whole tape. Right now, I'm just polishing up that bevel. When I'm all done, I will strop this baby up, and this thing will be ridiculously sharp. And I don't have a timer on my camera, but I would imagine I've been probably filming around maybe 5 minutes. I don't know, if you take out my talking, I'm sure it's a lot less. But the actual work is only about 5 minutes of work, if that. So people ask me all the time, the EdgePro, really worth it? Maybe I'll just get a Sharpmaker. Sharpmaker's great, it's awesome. The Sharpmaker cannot do what this system can do. This system, its cons are, of course, recurve blades are very hard to do. It's not impossible, you can definitely sharpen a recurve. What I end up doing on a recurve blade is, not with the polishing tape obviously, but with a stone, you see how the stone, the thickness of it, what I'll do is I'll cant my kind of rod here, and I'll use that corner, and I'll use that to get into the recurve. It makes for uneven wear on your stone, which is not good for your stone, but it's definitely doable, and it's definitely something I've done before, and it's really not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of creativeness. There's no instructions on how to sharpen a recurve, but once you understand on what you need to do, you can certainly do it with the system. It's just not intended for it. But it is so worth all the money. I've sharpened many knives on this system. and I maintain many knives on this system, I think I've got my money's worth out of it. But it's not for someone who's just kind of into knives. You have to kind of really be into the hobby and already invest a lot of money in your knives. You know, it's like anything else. It's an accessory. You get that really expensive car. Do you put a $50 stereo in it, or do you spend, you know, a couple grand on a stereo? It's up to you. It's whatever you want to do. But if you are into your knives for, you know, for the use part of it, you do want to be able to sharpen them. So anyway, polish the other side up. You could see, I mean, it's just like the other side. I mean, it's glistening, it's beautiful, and that's all without water. Yes, a wet sharpening system, used dry, how dare I. Works just fine. Okay, but I'm gonna go back on the other side and just do a couple simple passes here, just to clear off any fine burrs there may be. We'll go back to this side, we'll do the same. And now, I'm going to clean off the blade with my fingers because there's dust on it. Move that out of the way. Nice and sharp. But I'm going to strop it up anyway. Alright, now move the edge of the table here a little bit. Alright. Just one of the strops that I use. I actually got this from Kylie. CKC Knives strop. This is from back in the day when he first started doing stuff like this, and he sent me one of his hikers, one of the original hikers. He sent me this little homemade strop. Again, quick and dirty. I can literally sit here and I can really take my time, make sure everything's perfect, and you know, move the blade so that it just lines up beautifully. And my angles are great and everything's beautiful, but I don't always have time for that. Sometimes I do. I really pamper my knives like it's going through some kind of a spa treatment, and they come out like amazing. But occasionally I'll rush the job because that's real. We all have stuff to do, lives to live, right? I'll rush it, and although it's not as amazing, it's still pretty darn awesome. One last little clean there. The thing is nice. Nice. Beautiful. Really sharp. Above and beyond the factory edge. Glistening, shiny. Now I'll tell you something, these mirror edges, they look great on case knives. Well, pretty much all, you know, classic slip joints. Just because the knife itself is a very polished look. I mean, polished bolsters, high polished blades, stuff like that. So it finishes off that kind of presentation look on these types of knives, as opposed to your tactical knives. Although I think an all black knife with an all black blade and a really high polished edge is really sexy looking. It's really cool. But on you know, kind of a knife like this, it definitely works as well. So it's not just for form, it's also for function. Looks great, but it's also very functional. Nice and sharp now. So that's it. Just a quick little update. Don't know exactly how long this took, but obviously you guys do. And that is an update on the EdgePro Apex. It's a fantastic system. I don't always use it exactly how it should be used, but it still gets the job done just fine. You know, once you start getting used to the system itself, you know how to kind of cut corners here and there. But look at that, it's beautiful. Glistening. It's definitely some cutlery lover jewelry. If you love cutlery, you like shiny knives too. Well, maybe not. Some of you don't like shiny knives, but very cool. And no, not afraid to carry or use a pink knife. Not my preferred color, but it's something different. Why not? That's all. So I'm going to actually take some flits and really buff this out even more. Even though it looks pretty darn good right now on camera, in person there's some areas that could use a little bit of buffing. And I'll get that one little scratch out, it's not a big deal. And after sharpening, you guys can hear it, tiny bit of dust in that pivot. So I will also re-oil this so it's nice and smooth as well. I mean, it's barely anything, but I noticed it a little bit, so I'll take care of that. So anyway, that's all. EdgePro Apex is still awesome. It will continue to be awesome, and I highly recommend it. Always will. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate your time as always, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.